It's Cooking Gumbo Nation. Welcome to today's Hump Day Holla, the afternoon edition. That's right, folks. We knew, and he's still speaking right now. Fed Chair Jerome Powell is chatting. So we wanted to stick around so we could make sure we got, which we've been already telling you, and welcome in James Parker. James, I think we've already been telling our audience that the Fed was still going to raise the federal funds rate, and they did. So a little bit crazy there, thinking what's going on with the banking, and you and I, we basically got tired of sleeping, listening to him talk, right? So it was best we found out the information, but that's why we kind of pivoted and had a little bit of a afternoon hump day holla because look, when the Fed speaks, it's important right now, as important as it's ever been. So in a nutshell, here's a couple things, Parker, that I picked up on, right? So, and I want to say that it's a positive, and maybe they're finally getting the message, although I'm not sure. Um, we talked about this past Saturday and last week. It's almost like the Fed, you don't feel good, so they give you data, and then they keep feeding you medicine, but because they waited so long and you don't get well right away, they overdose you, right? It's kind of like so they're just trying to make up for lost time. So here's what he said today. He raised it 6.25. They're telling you the banking industry is sound. Okay, whatever, right? That's fine. Um, but what I liked that he said was with today's hike, it takes us from federal funds rate from 4.75, James, to 5%. And he said they see the year ending at 5.1. So that's only another 10 basis points. Now, they put the caveat in there that if nothing gets, out of control or anything like that. So to me, I think that's a little bit of a positive, James, that as a guy in the mortgage industry, I think that could give us something to stand on there moving forward, which kind of maybe is that light off in the distance that is the sun that's perking through the clouds. What's your thoughts?
Well, the important thing about this rate hike was that it's exactly what everyone was expecting, because what the market can't stand right now, because it is a house of cards that's just shakily holding on because we're looking over the cliff of recession right now. We just got out of the other cliff. And if they had held the rate steady, as in not hiked it anymore, the market would have said, "Oh my goodness, what are they so concerned about that they're not raising the rates anymore?" Because we know inflation sure as heck hasn't gone down enough.
Yeah.
However, if they continued raising the rates at a half a point clip, which seemed to be their preferred jump for a while there, then it was almost a concern because, oh my goodness, they're admitting that inflation is continuing to be a big problem.
Yeah.
And so they've sort of painted themselves into this narrow little window of expectations. And whether you agree with the rate hike or not, at least they didn't shock anybody with this.
No, I agree. And look, we wish they would just come out and say the word recession. They won't. It is what it is, and we'll work through that. But let's talk about James. We've been talking about how we're guiding folks, and we're through these uncharted waters. Right? This is unique. I've been doing this for 30 years, and pat ourselves on the back. So far, we've been batting 1,000, which is hard to do, to use a baseball terminology, or free throws, or anything like that. But let me just share some data on really just how close we are. You remember, James, in the beginning of February, we came on and we did our hump day holla, and we talked about, James, we may be able on Saturday to get back to saying the rates are in the fives. That's how close we were. We were at 6.0 whatever, right? Right in the beginning of February. We were looking at, 6.09. Well, because of that, let me just explain, and the media will not put it this way. So, realtors, this is important for you. People who are wondering, should I be selling my home? Or listen to this. We've talked about existing home sales. We've talked about how for a record number of months, they've been way down. And just to reiterate what an existing home sale is, an existing home sale is somebody that's selling their house that they've lived in it. It's new to me because I'm buying it, but somebody else lived in it beforehand. So what the media wants to tell you is, oh, existing home sales are still down. But listen to this, James, and it shows you how close everybody is and how close we are, even with rates being elevated. It for existing home sales, closings for existing home sales in the month of February, James, was up 14.5% over January. 14.5% on what was expected a 5% gain, raising to 4.5 million on an annualized pace, bringing it down from 37% expected to 22%. So that means, folks, what they're not telling you in the media, they want to tell you existing home sales still down. Median home price, and I'm going to explain that in a second because this show's all about education and options. What that tells you is we're right there. And maybe this Fed hike that sort of was expected, we're going to see a little bit of a rally. And we told you this a couple weeks ago when the bank went down, that we may see some rallying on this because it's going to cause everybody to rethink everything. And that benefits somebody who wants to sell their home, who wants to purchase their home. Now, if you're waiting on buying, this is what we've been talking about. More, and my phone is starting to ring more and more and more. And remember, for every 1% that rates go down, every 1%, 5 million more people become eligible. Okay? So now, what does that do when you have existing home sales? Well, inventory, okay, is up 15%. Now, keep in mind when we say that, that sounds good that inventory is up. Folks, we're coming off of all-time lows. So right now we have under 1 million units. However, you take out active listings, which means you only count, active listings, not ones that are under contract. We're at 575,000 homes, Gumbo Nation. That's a supply of 1.5 months. On a normal market, it's 4.6 months. So that gives you an idea of what's going on. And the data shows that right now, the homes that are selling, 57% sold in less than 30 days. So if you've got a house that's not selling in less than 30 days, you need to reevaluate with your realtor, maybe listen to your realtor, maybe look at all the options there and understand that maybe you're asking a little bit too much.
In your anecdotal experience, just what you've observed, is New Orleans ahead or behind the national trends? When you talk about these numbers, are things speeding up more so in New Orleans or less so than the national numbers?
No, New Orleans is right on par. New Orleans is right on par on what we're looking
North
at.
Shore versus South Shore.
Yeah, your North Shore is performing a ton better than the South Shore is. A
Yeah,
ton better.
I bring this up because a couple days ago, I talked to a mutual friend of ours who's a real estate agent. She said
Yeah,
her business used to be 50-50 North Shore versus South Shore,
yeah.
and now it's about 70% versus North Shore versus 30% South Shore. And, that's a one-off. Yes, that's anecdotal, but she's not the first person I've heard mention that. And so you see a lot more of these than I do. And I just, wonder how different it is compared to the numbers that you're giving out on, because, it's leveled out across the whole nation.
Correct. And real estate's local. That's one of the things that we make sure we preach every week, right, James? It's what's happening outside your window. And what's happening outside of our window is just the lake, right? The lake that separates North Shore and South Shore, right? So for people that may be watching us in other parts of the country, the North Shore and the South Shore, we've got a big lake, Pontchartrain. South of that lake is South Shore, north of that lake is North Shore. Well, what are you having? Right now we have insurance concerns, insurance issues here. So South Shore is seeing a lot more pain in that than we are on the North Shore, because the South Shore, you got a lot more flood areas. You've got a lot more riskier areas. You've got places there on the South Shore where insurance premiums, or quite frankly, just higher than what they are on the North Shore.
And I like how you use the air quotes for like flood
Yeah.
concerns when my previous house was literally 12 feet under sea level. So yeah, it's not
Yeah.
just American air quotes. It's
You live in a
legit.
bowl.
That's a for real
You
flood.
live, think of a cereal bowl in New Orleans is at the bottom of it, right? Where your
Think
milk
of,
hangs out.
yeah, think of Noah's Ark.
So
Those
let's what I want to do is, and we're going to dive into this a lot more on Saturday, but what I want to share is for all those folks, James, that in the media saying how bad the housing market is and with rates going up and all these things, folks, they like to talk about and they like to tell you up appreciation is down. But what they use is they use the term, the median term, to try and manipulate that number. So when you hear median, the median, think of it this way. What median basically is if you've got 5 sales, lowest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, lowest to highest. The median is that middle sale. They're selling it, and it's crafty words because it meets the agenda of talking about, but that does not have anything to do with home appreciation. And
there's
James, we
one.
talk about this all the time. It's a play on words. So let me give you some data for those who are wondering, should I be buying a house or should I be sitting on the sideline? Home price appreciation through February, according to the FHFA, which is the Federal Housing Finance Authority, is up 8.4% year over year. You tell me in the stock market right now. So when we say buying is a home is always a good return, you've made 8.4% year over year. Case-Shiller came out and theirs is 5. They're a little bit more conservative, 5.8% year over year. Folks, my point is that's taken all the data. Median home price is not appreciation. Because what median home price is taken into effect of the houses that got bought from 0 to 100,000. Then the houses that got bought from 100 to 250, then 250 to 500. It's not taken into the consideration that more people bought 250 to $500,000 houses and how much their appreciation is up. So that's just the part that I want to make sure, and we're going to dive into that a lot more because this is why you probably hear a little giddy up, a little jump in my step right now, because what the Fed did today, we expected. There's going to, in my opinion, them saying there's only going to be another 10 basis points, they're hedging their bets because it also, if you didn't play Russian roulette while this guy was speaking, right? If you listen, he's the, but we'll keep things open or pending this or, whatever those buzzword bingo that he's got to get out so many times in his speech. He used those a lot, James.
A lot of caveats in there, and this is wiggle room, so you'll never be able to come back and show them the tape from 6 months ago where you said you were gonna do this. So it's not that these guys are it's worthless to listen to them. You do have to kind of take it with a gigantic boulder of salt that you're throwing over your shoulder while you do it. But what we have learned here is that they don't think things are catastrophic enough to reverse course or accelerate the rate hikes. So they may be right, they may be wrong, but we're going to find out the hard way, and we're going to find out good and hard whether or not they're right or wrong with this.
Absolutely. And somebody said, hey, listen, we just avoided something huge, whatever it is. We're hoping more banks, none of this stuff. So whatever their Fed policy, does FDIC then go to 500,000 for a single and $1 million? That's not our concern. But James, how much have we been talking about? And again, this is just that much more proof. We've been talking about for 5-6 weeks how refinances we've started to do more. What's the 4 Ds? Death, debt, divorce, distance, relocation, right? And this is just more proof of interest rate is a number on a piece of paper. And we're doing a lot more refinances than, quite frankly, I even thought we would. And I can't get into all the scenarios that I deal with on a daily basis, which snapsendandsave.com. But James, refinances year over year are still down 63%. So you go, wow, that's horrible. But James, here's the positive, because today I'm a glass half full guy. James, that's 25% lower than when it was close to 90% year over year just a few months back. So it shows you people are understanding. It shows you what we're telling you. Oh, are you being affected by inflation? You have to be, because why would you refinance 3 and 4%? Why would you? Right? So there's life that happens. And that's what we want you to understand. We're here, and that's what we're making impacts on. So everything that we've been talking about, all that data, while the Fed is trying to use a hockey puck and they're trying to go back and find the hockey puck, what we're trying to do is we're trying to help you and give you advice on where the hockey puck's going next, so we can defend it, so we can educate you and help you understand where things are going.
Well, I like seeing these interest rates in the sixes, all of them in the sixes, because they were in the sevens not that long ago. And I know it doesn't sound like a big jump to be from 7% world to the 6% world, but it is. And historically speaking, in the mortgage world, this is kind of the average. So do you want to be below average? Do you want do you want the interest rates to be a little better than they have been historically, or do you want to grind up against historically above average interest rates? And that's sort of the game we're playing at this level.
James, what's the cliche we started saying last March when it started? Marry the house, date the rate. This is proof. Appreciation is up over 8.5%. So for people who went and purchased last year when the market supposedly was going down, right? Look at where you are now. Look at what is going on now, right? These people are coming to me and they gained on a $250,000 house, they gained 10%. That's $25,000. That means they qualify for a whole different ball game now, right? So a lower rate, all these type of things are now coming in play. That's why we're trying to educate you. We're not telling you should be buying now because we need a loan. Hey, this month in March, we're going to help over 15 families. 15. Now, in 20 and 21, when we were doing 70 a month, it's a little different. But we're going to help 15 families. Mortgage Gumbo. A lot of people, I see the numbers, aren't doing that. So that's why I'm trying to help educate you and understand. Opportunity is still presenting itself right now where you could get those closing costs. You could get some of those other things. Listeners, Gumbo Nation, it's going to go away sooner rather than later. So the cost of waiting and you being able to go, hey, now I waited and I can get 5.25. Did you save up enough money for your closing costs or have enough money to maybe pay over list price? Because now your competition is going to improve. Like we said, for every 1%, 5 million people come eligible. Hey, we're going to talk about this, James, and more on Saturday as we continue to just break down the whys.
Can I squeeze one more final thought out of you?
Absolutely, man. Sure.
Because you've made me a believer that none of this is going to significantly get better for the buyer. Now, the seller's position is a little more malleable, but until we have better news on inventory, and we can do some forward looking on inventory with new housing starts, we can know it's going to come on the market in 9 months, a year from now.
Permits tell us that. We already know what we're going to have available for us in September, James.
Yeah, and so it still looks incredibly historically tight how few houses are on the market. So if you are looking for a house and you find the house of your dreams, who cares what the interest rate is? You better snatch that up, because I just went through trying to buy a house about a year and a half ago, and it was vastly different than the first house I bought because it was so few and far between. It was significantly less fun. I know it's not supposed to be fun, but picking out a house is kind of fun.
Should be, sure.
Yeah.
So think about, James, all that experience that you went through, but you got 3%. People are still going to be going through that same exact experience over trying to wait for
Right.
5%.
And what are we coming up? What's next year? Next year is giveaway season. There's going to be giveaways for everyone. They're going to slam the rates back down to zero if they have to. Let inflation roll hot. Who cares? We just need at least the facade of a good economy when people go to the ballot box in 2024. And watch, that's what Fed policy is going to be based on.
Folks, you cannot exercise just one day and go out and buy a new wardrobe. Keep that in mind. That's what mortgagegumbo.com, that's what snapsinandsave.com is for, right? We're not here to tell you how to diet and give you a nutrition program. What we're here to tell you is if you do this, you get that. We remove all the obstacles. So, hey, tune in Saturday. Can't wait to chat. We'll have more. We'll be able to let you know what we're seeing with the rates, which are fantastic right now, moving in the right direction. So don't miss those opportunities. Reach out. Give me a call, 504-207-7600, or go to mortgagegumbo.com. Till Saturday, Gumbo Nation, keep stirring the pot.